that you guys stopped until the midpoint of the third quarter that you guys were unable to stop. Sure. Was it an adjustment, or was it you guys just simply making more mistakes?
Well, I think the beginning of the game and really the first 2.5 quarters of the game, I thought our guys played physical. They played clean. We fit gaps really well. We tackled at a high level. We were disguising the back end really, really well, and just played up to that point, played a really complete start to the football game, and was really, really proud of them. Second half, some things started happening, slipping away from us. It's my job to get them back on the sidelines and get those things cleaned up and corrected faster than I was able to do. But just the effort from the guys, how hard they played, how dialed in they were the entire game, was proud to coach them. Just some things, when things started happening negatively, we're going to stop doing this, have a tendency to try to do too much and try to do things outside of the framework of what our individual responsibility is. And last night we had a long unit meeting, went through the 12 plays that affected the game. 8 of those 12 plays were a result of missed tackles. And some of the missed tackles were just a result of somebody or one or two guys trying to do too much and were mispositioned, and it affected somebody else that needed to make the tackle, not make that tackle. Conversely to the previous week, there was a ton of plays that we showed after the red dot part that were really good plays. So we spent enough time saying, hey, these 12 plays we have to get corrected. Here's why these 12 plays happened. But you also put a lot of great stuff on tape that we've got to continue to build on, because we've still got a long season ahead, and we've got to play great defense throughout the season.
I caught a lot of that frustration. And how hard is it to coach frustrated players when it feels like there's like a waterfall piling on?
Sure, and that's we get them together on the sideline and try to get that corrected. We talk about playing one play at a time and not letting the previous play affect us, but that is a learned skill that we're continuing to try to build on, so that we don't go through that. We experienced it 2 weeks ago, the entirety of the game, or really the first 3 quarters, and then last week it was the last 20 minutes or whatever, that we've just got to get the guys just settle down, play one play at a time, and we'll get the little things corrected that are affecting us. Just keep doing your job and don't compound matters by trying to do something that's outside of your responsibility.
So, Geoff, what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is what you have noticed, at least about the way the Duke game changed, was it wasn't that you guys wore down, because I think some people thought that gotcha. They just sort of pounded you, they out-physicaled you. I think Manny Diaz even said that, like,
gotcha.
Drug them into the sewer type deal. Okay. Like, you didn't see you guys wearing down. It was more of MAs and missed tackles and that type
So
of
I will say that I thought our front four, because we have a lot of depth and are rotating a lot of guys, they were able to stay fresh longer. Some other positions we have to force ourselves to even play more guys. And I think if you look at Michael Short's performance, I mean, he finally got 8 plays on defense, and he capitalized on it. Trey Miller got in there and did some really good things. Tyran Stewart got in there and did some really good things. Caleb LaValle. Will Hardy always does when he gets his reps. But we just got to be committed on all levels. And especially we're playing a high-tempo offense this week. Same kind of deal. We've got to roll guys in so that we don't have any we can have guys that are completely fresh the entirety of the game.
You mentioned earlier was, maybe guys have a tendency to, quote unquote, do too much, so to speak.
Sure.
I know, of course, the goal of the defense is to, fly around, play fast, things like that. How do you kind of communicate to them the line, if that makes sense, of like, okay, this is how we want to play fast, but then also kind of stay within your
Sure. And for every single call that we make, every single schematic thing that we have, there's an alignment, an assignment, and a technique. So playing free, playing fast, playing physical, playing with great effort still stems from your alignment, your assignment, and your key. Those kind of things are non-negotiable. And then just a couple of times we had some guys that were not in the proper alignment, assignment, or just doing the exact job they were supposed to, and then it starts compounding issues, you know, on all three levels.
Geoff, you mentioned Pitt likes to play with tempo. What else have you seen from them just in your early film study? Obviously, Eli Holstein's having a really good year.
Absolutely. They've got really good players. Big physical offensive line. The quarterback is making some really good plays. I think they have a dynamic receiving core, and their running backs are really good as well. And the tight end, I don't know what year this is for the tight end, but it feels like he's been there ever since I've been back in the league, and he's a really good player. Well, so personnel-wise, they have they've got a really good personnel on offense, and then they're just so multiple. You know, there's some things that there are some indicators on things, but it is tons of formations, tons of plays, tons of play action shots, layered routes. So they do a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of eye candy to get you off of your assignment and your key and all those kind of things. So we just got to be disciplined and focused and execute.
Have you ever had any interactions with their offensive coordinator? I know he's a fellow Western Carolina
Yeah,
guy.
when I was the defense coordinator at Florida, him and me and his dad became friendly, and obviously have followed his career, and have known Cade probably for the last 5 or 6 years. Think very highly of that family. I went last year to the Western Carolina Furman game as an alumnus, proud alumnus. Me and Lonnie's alma mater went to watch a top 10 matchup, and so I think very highly of that entire family and their football acumen. And you know, I don't know if it's weird to say, but I'm proud of Cade, right, and what he's done as a young coach, and just the maturity he's shown in leading this offense and to be as explosive as it is.
Along those lines too, with the hurricane and what happened in Western North Carolina, just your thoughts on, I would think you still know people that live in that area.
My mom lives in Franklin, North Carolina. Yep.
Just that devastation they've gone through.
And then one of my best friends from college lives in Owen, North Carolina, Swannanoa area. And so I was texting him this morning just to make sure that he was safe, he was okay. And I'll leave the private conversation between us, but just that area, you know, is near and dear to my heart, and for a lot of reasons. And then Jennifer, my wife, her family, she was raised in Lenoir, and so her best friend since she was 5 years old, they lived there. They're both Carolina grads, her and her husband. They had to listen to the game on a battery-powered transistor radio, listen to our game the other night, because they didn't have TV, they didn't have Wi-Fi, you know, so obviously thoughts and prayers are to everybody that's affected. I appreciate that question.
Back in August, you talked about maybe Dez and Bo getting some work at the rush position behind Kamen. Kamen's been out for a while. We haven't seen him anymore. We did see Jacoby Cowan over there the other day. How long has he been working at that, and how do you think he did?
I think Jacoby played great. He played 53 snaps, which I think is the most he's ever played, and he had earned those reps, and I thought he played at a really high level, and made a bunch of plays, tackle for loss, and pressures on the quarterback. I thought he played really well. Tyler Thompson was proud of Tyler and Jabron because they had shared the bulk of that load the previous 2 weeks. I thought they handled that situation with Jacoby getting a ton of burn, with maturity, with poise. They were unbelievable teammates the entire time, and they both still got to play, but Jacoby was kind of executing at a high level, playing at a high level, and Tyler and Jabron were still as engaged and positive on the sideline. That's rare to see at times, and I was proud of those two. I'm obviously proud of Jacoby because he played at a high level.
How much work had he gotten in at that spot prior?
Jacoby's very intelligent. So even during the preseason, he would part and parcel at that spot some, and he would play at the three technique some as well. So he's well versed in playing a lot of different things. But the reps that he had gotten the previous week, he earned to be on the field a ton more. And so that was the natural progression to put him there and let him focus for an entirety of a week. And it was pretty good.
Aside from his learning, does his size just give you maybe more of what you need there? Because I mean, I did think he looked the part there the other day.
100%. And I mean, I think if you just, roll out what you want a great defensive line to look like, that's what ours looks like, and we've got depth, and I've been really proud of the way they've played.
When you talk about having a massive front, when you stick him at that rush position, that's a massive front.
Yep, big guys, and I love being in the defensive huddle, and I've got to do this. That is a great feeling whenever you get to do that, and so it's good.
Geoff, I know you have studied this defense like, a ton since you got here in January. And it's sort of along the same lines of what we asked you after JMU. But for you, are you learning in real time, JMU, do some of these games? What has been a problem for this defense the last time? I mean, I know you can practice it, I know you can study it, but you know what I'm saying, when the bullets are flying, has that been part of the learning curve for you?
1,000%. And it's hard to replicate those situations that you get in the heat of battle and how people react to certain situations, and how best to help them through those such situations, because it's hard to fabricate it in practice, right? And so when you get to go through those experiences together, and now you can see, okay, this is how he responds, this is how he responds, this is collectively how they respond to adversity, to success, whatever the case may be, it equips me better to positively affect them. And the other piece is when you get in games, you can even further see what guys can really do from an individual basis and how to shape the entirety of the defense to help all of them. And so that's part of the learning process as well. First 3 weeks, playing lights out, hit a speed bump, regrouped, played really well for a long period of time, and we just got to continue to, I don't want to eradicate the things that pop up at times, just so we can be the defense that the fan base wants us to be, the players want us to be, I want us to be, Coach Brown wants us to be. So I appreciate that.
Jabari had such a hot start to the season. He's been a little quieter lately. Have you seen offensive lines sort of dedicate more of their game plan toward him? And how much do you think Kamen potentially coming back this week could help alleviate that?
Great question, but I don't want us to misconstrue production from impact, because Jabari Ritzie has had an impact in every single game. Obviously, the flash plays everybody sees, but the things that he does on a daily basis and how he affects the front, how he affects blocking schemes, he's still doing that at a very high level. Just maybe some of the statistical numbers haven't been there, but the impact that he's had and the effect that he's had on the defense is really positive.
Geoff, I know you mentioned it earlier, but yeah, it was LaValle and Short. I think it was the third series that, both those guys got in and things like that. Do you feel that you all are kind of getting closer to, where you want to be as far as rotating some of those linebackers?
So.
And things like that?
And I think the street cred that those two have earned with their teammates, because that's important too. What we think matters, but also how their teammates feel about their contribution and what they've been doing on special teams. They've earned it. And then they got in there and they had a 3-and-out, right off the bat. And I think we started the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs. And that's the expectation, that's the vision, that's the mindset that we want to have. And the cool thing is the second play that they were in, I knew exactly what to call and unleashed it, and it was a tackle for a loss by Michael Short. I don't know if Jeremy Sharp gave him the credit for the tackle for loss, but the ball went backwards on the next spot, which means they lost yardage. I don't know if that was right. I don't know. So, but I got you. But it was a nice play, and then they made a nice play on third down. So they've earned the right to get more reps and to get more burn.
Back potentially.
Sure.
How much of an impact do you think you could have along the defensive front?
Yeah, I think we all know Kamen's a great player, and just excited that he's healthy, and hopefully he's ready to roll. And I think the respect that he's earned, obviously within this locker room, with our fan base and with opponents. I mean, they know the impact that he can have. So I'm just excited, whenever he gets back to help us.
Do you miss his voice as much as his play? I mean,
So-
obviously, he could be on the sideline
Right.
where he's not with the guys
Right.
in the game.
I still think he's doing a great job with it. I mean, Coach Brown has him on all the trips. He's in all the meetings. He's in the locker room. And Kamen does a really good job of, because he's been around these guys so much, he knows which buttons to push, which guys to put his arm around, which guys to ramp up, or which guys to calm down. And I think he's been doing that the entire time, even though he's not been out on the grass playing, because the guys respect him. They know he has pure intentions in all that he does, so they're able to accept his leadership because they know it's coming from a good place.
Of the guys that have been playing.
So the one that's been very impressive to me has been Kevin Hester. I mean, Scoob has been an absolute rock star. I mean, obviously he's such a physical presence, but just his demeanor, his attitude, his calm, positive nature has been awesome. I think Des Evans, obviously we see him making flash plays and splash plays and wrecking the game at times, but he's had a great demeanor as well and a great attitude and a mindset throughout all of this. Josh Harris, I mean, I could just keep going. There's a bunch of guys that have been, I don't know if y'all would call them the rah-rah guys, because I don't know that we have a ton of those, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? There's guys that are just consistent in their attitude, beliefs, and behaviors that are good.
The unit meeting you mentioned earlier, which I guess would have been Sunday night,
Last night.
right? And you said it went long. If there was a theme to it, was the theme, we just need you to do your job? Is that, I'm not trying to put words in your
Well,
mouth.
so literally, y'all aren't in there, but literally the first slide that comes up, so I try to do a good job explaining that we're about to watch red dot, green dot. And at the bottom of the screen, it says in big bold letters with an exclamation point, do your job. That's what it says. And then we just go through it, and this is not, we don't want to use anything in that meeting to be demeaning, to weaponize anything. We just want corrections. We're all on the same page. Just keep doing your job, and we're getting these things fixed in real time. And the guys can see it, they can move it, they know it's not from a mean-spirited nature. It is, we love you, we want to play great defense together, and that's just the consistent message throughout the entirety of the time. And then the nice thing is there was so much positive to show that we ended showing the positive as well. Just do this, and invariably what happens, a lot of those things that were green dotted, which is positive, were conversely red dotted previously, just not executed exactly the way it should have been. So, and the guys are awesome about it. And then there were two that the fellas call me GC5. There were two that in big bold letters in red said GC5 on it. So I make sure I call myself out too if I made a bad call or made a bad decision, so they see that I'm not immune to being held accountable in front of them as well. So my number 5 was college, or my college football number was 5, initials GC, and that's just whatever reason that's been. The players have called me that for about 8 years now, so I don't mind it. That's what Nate calls me, Nate McCullum, so we're all good.